What's up? It's Marty Itcherman. You are in the Nerd Nest. Well, September is upon us. We are nearing the end of summer and will soon be into fall, the season of pumpkin spice and football. But before we do that, we got another edition of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. In this episode, I'll be sticking with the works of Jack Barry and Dan Enright, and I will be discussing a game show that could be considered a clone of their most successful show, The Joker's Wild. It was a game of strategy, knowledge, luck, and especially daring. It's time to load up our quivers and discuss the early 1980s series, Bullseye!
This is the television game in which daring determines the fate of the player. This is the game of strategy, luck, and knowledge. This is Bullseye. Now, here's our host, Jim Lange.
Thank you. Oh, what a crowd. Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome again to Bullseye, and let's get going.
This show from the early 1980s was essentially a clone of The Joker's Wild, and it was also from the same creators, Jack Barry and Dan Enright, and it also combined some elements from their other hit show of the time, Tic-Tac-Toe. Contestants would try to answer trivia questions to win money, and then play a bonus round where they could win thousands more with a bit of strategy, luck, and risk-taking. Put it all together, and you have a show that was, well, shall we say, interesting. Bullseye premiered in syndication on September 29th, 1980, and ran until June 25th, 1982, with reruns airing until September 24th of that year. For the last 7 months of its run, starting on December 7th, 1981, the show became Celebrity Bullseye. Yes, it went down that route. More about that later. The host for the series was game show hosting veteran Jim Lange. Born in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1932, Jim began his radio broadcasting career in the Twin Cities after winning an audition as a teenager, later appearing as a kids show host on Captain 11 on WMIN-TV, now NBC affiliate KARE. He graduated from St. Thomas Academy, going to the University of Minnesota on a scholarship from the Evans Scholars Foundation. After graduating from the U of M and serving in the Marines, Lange moved to San Francisco. After making his Bay Area broadcast debut as the all-night mayor on KGO AM, he moved to afternoons on KSFO in 1960. Lange's network television career began in San Francisco as well with The Ford Show in 1962, where he was the announcer for and sidekick to the show's host, Tennessee Ernie Ford. 3 years later, he would sign on to host his most famous game show, The Dating Game, created by the legendary Chuck Barris, which originally ran on ABC from 1965 to 1973 and had 2 runs in syndication, with the first ending in 1974, a year after the network run had ended, and a second run titled The New Dating Game, running from 1978 to 1980. During that time, he commuted to Los Angeles to tape the show as he still worked at KSFO, which is owned by country music legend Gene Autry. In order to limit his commute while taping The Dating Game, Jim also began working at LA radio station KMPC. He ultimately left KSFO after Autry's company sold the station in 1983, and he stayed at KMPC until around 1990. In addition to hosting The Dating Game, Jim's other game show hosting credits include Oh My Word, The Hollywood Connection, Spin-Off, Give and Take, Bowling for Dollars for KTLA in Los Angeles, a 1984 revival of Name That Tune, The New Newlywed Game, The $1 Million Chance of a Lifetime, and Triple Threat. He also appeared as a guest on Scrabble in 1988 during their Game Show Hosts Week, and on Hollywood Squares' Game Show Week in 2002, which also saw the return of original host Peter Marshall. He also made guest appearances on the sitcoms Bewitched, Laverne and Shirley, The Super Mario Bros. Super Show, Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and Moesha, and he guest starred as himself in the 2002 film Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, the fake autobiography of dating game creator Chuck Barris. In the early 1990s, Lange returned to full-time radio in the Bay Area, first on KFRC in San Francisco, and then at KKSJ in San Jose, and finally hosted the Lange Gang on mornings on KABL in San Francisco before retiring in 2005. Jim Lange died of a heart attack in 2014 at the age of 81. The show's announcer for his first season was Jay Stewart, where it taped at NBC Studios in Burbank, while its second season, taped at CBS Television City, was announced by Charlie O'Donnell. The game was played like this. 2 contestants, one usually being a returning champion, competed. The contestants faced a game board consisting of 3 circular windows arranged in an upside-down triangle placed onto a star. 8 different categories were available per game, 4 in each of the top 2 windows, while the bottom window was called the contract window and displayed numbers from 1 to 5, as well as a bullseye, which I will explain in a bit. The windows were covered up with swirls and then spun to randomize their contents, and the contestant in control, with the champion always going first, hit a button on their podium to stop and reveal them. The top windows displayed a category and a dollar amount, originally from $50 to $200 in increments of 50, and the contract window indicated the number of questions that had to be answered correctly in order to claim any money. This number was also shown on Jim's podium and counted down to 0 after each correct answer. After choosing a category and value pair, the contestant answered 1 question at a time. Each correct response added the value of the question to the pot shown in between the contestants. If they got it incorrect or they did not answer in time, their opponent was given a chance to seal control of the contract with the right answer. Now, if both contestants missed the same question, it was thrown out and control reverted to the contestant who had originally tried to answer it. Once a contract was completed, the contestant who did so had 2 choices: either leave the money in the pot and try to increase it, though they would keep control of the board, or they could claim the money in the pot, theirs to keep regardless of the outcome of the game, but they would surrender control of the board to their opponent. As a result, this made Bullseye one of the few Barry and Enright game shows that allowed losing contestants to keep their cash winnings. The bullseye, if landed on, represented an open-ended contract which allowed a contestant to answer as many questions as they wanted, and they were allowed to stop after any right answer. As before, if they got one wrong, their opponent could steal control, and if they did, they also had the option to keep playing or to end the contract. Hitting the bullseye also gave a chance for a contestant to answer enough questions to reach the goal amount to win the game. Since the champion always spun first, it was possible for them to win the game without giving the challenger any chance to play. If this happened, the challenger would come back to play again in the next game. Originally, the goal amount to win the game was $1,000. During the 2-week period of November 24th to December 5th, 1980, the same amount won by a champion in the main game would also be donated to a children's charity. To ensure that the charities would receive more money, the question values were doubled to $100 to $400 in increments of 100, and the goal amount increased to $2,000. These increased amounts remained in place for the rest of the show's run. Later, before December 1981, when the show became Celebrity Bullseye, a $500 value was added to the main game. As was common practice on Barry and Enright's game shows during this period, champions played until they were defeated, and for every 5 wins in a row, they won a brand new car. The champion advanced to play the bonus round, called Bonus Island, which was whisked to the right side of the stage near the board. The contestant stood with Jim on the island. As before, the champion hit a button, now big enough to use 2 hands, to stop the spinning windows. For this round, however, the 3 windows contained various dollar amounts, bullseyes, and 1 window contained a bolt of lightning. The money amounts were $100, $150, and $200 originally. During the 5th week, the $150 was doubled to $300. After each safe spin, any dollar amounts appearing in the windows were added to the pot for this round. Originally, if any bullseyes appeared, the champion had the option to freeze those windows and to take them out of play. This option was later removed, and any windows showing bullseyes were automatically frozen. The champion hoped that the lightning would be behind that window, obviously. The champion could then choose to stop at any time and keep the accumulated money. There were 3 ways to win the bonus round. If the contestant could get a bullseye in all 3 windows, albeit not all in one spin, the champion won a prize package usually worth between $2,000 and $4,000, and all the money in the pot at that point was doubled. Also, if a champion could go 10 spins without seeing the lightning, later reduced to 7, they also won the prize package and the money in the pot was increased to $5,000. Though if the pot was more than that by that point, they won the excess. And if the champion could get 3 bullseyes all in one single spin, the pot was increased to $5,000. Of course, if the champion got struck by lightning at any time, bonus money was lost and the round was over. Also, the location of the lightning wouldn't be revealed until after the bonus round was over, win or lose. So the champion had no way whether or not it had been blocked behind a bullseye. If the champion did win, Jim revealed the contents of the windows. And except for the Celebrity Bullseye episodes, which didn't offer prizes, the same prize package was at stake throughout a particular episode until it was won. In the show's pilot, which was taped in 1979, Bullseye had a different version of Bonus Island, where a champion could actually become a millionaire. First, the champion spun a number jumbler, which contained the numbers 3, 4, and 5, as well as a bullseye. The 3 windows contained either bullseyes or lightning bolts. Starting with the money one during the front game, which was at least $1,000, the champion stopped the windows by hitting the plunger, and if all 3 contained bullseyes, it doubled the player's money. This process continued until reaching the number in the contract set by the number jumbler, winning $8, $16, or $32,000, or the lightning appeared, which of course bankrupted the contestant. If the number jumbler stopped on a bullseye, the contestant continued to spin until stopping, hitting the lightning, or winning over $1 million, which, starting with at least $1,000, would take 10 spins. That would have been fun to see. And that's how Bullseye was played. Now let's take aim and give it a grade. Of all the game shows created by Jack Barry and Dan Enright, Bullseye was one of them. It was essentially a mishmash of their 2 most successful game shows of the era, Tic-Tac-Dough and The Joker's Wild, and it was more or less a clone of the latter. The main game just replaced the slot machine with the star-shaped board to determine the categories and the question values. However, unlike Joker, but more like Tic-Tac, the money was added to the pot. But unlike either show, the contestant could take the money for themselves after completing a contract. But this is where strategy came in, because they had the option of leaving the money in the pot and keeping control of the board to try to increase it, and if they had enough confidence, even earn enough money to win the game. But they would be leaving the money up for grabs, and one wrong answer could spell doom, and their opponent could always take the money and maybe even win the game for themselves. So usually if a player struggled with a certain category and they were lucky enough to get control back on the opponent's error, they might just take the cash in the pot, which they would keep win or lose, and just surrender control of the board to their opponent and hope they screwed up so they could steal it back. The bullseye, which allowed the player to answer as many questions as they wanted, could be considered this show's version of the golden snitch, as in if a player was daring enough and lucky enough, they could answer enough questions to win the game. But it had its risks for the same reasons I mentioned earlier, so daring was indeed a big part of this show. As for risk, well, Bonus Island had plenty of it. It followed the same Barry and Enright trope of either hitting X or Y before getting Z, in this case, the lightning. I mean, the set looks pretty cool, and it was always exciting to see contestants win big, which they could do here, and I like the idea of having your money increase to $5,000 if you could run the gamut and go 10, later 7 spins without getting struck by the lightning. But the bonus round wasn't anything special. It was still fun to watch, though. As for the host, well, Jim Lange did a fine job here. By this time in his career, he was a seasoned veteran as a game show host. He showed his skill, and although he did crack a dad joke now and then, he was always charismatic and professional, which is proof that he was indeed one of the better game show hosts out there. I'm sure another host could have done a good job with a show like Bullseye, but Jim did fine. Now for the biggest beef I think most fans had with this show, Celebrity Bullseye. By November of 1981, Bullseye's ratings were starting to decline, and the producers tried to boost the ratings by having celebrities play for charity. Originally, it was only supposed to be temporary, but on December 7th, 1981, the show permanently became Celebrity Bullseye and stayed that way until its cancellation the following year. The show was overhauled, and it became a best 2 out of 3 match, and Jim no longer announced the categories before the game began, and the questions were now all multiple choice. And as seen on other celebrity game shows, both before and since, the game slowed down a lot as the contestants had to be the center of attention. And also, by making the game a best 2 out of 3 match, some episodes didn't even have Bonus Island played at all. So, yeah. Well, that being said, save for the slog that was the Celebrity Edition, Bullseye was a fun game show, at least the civilian version was. It does lose points for being a clone of Joker's Wild, but makes up for it with its cool set and music, the challenge, risk-taking, and big money and prizes, and it gets a solid B. Now here's the part where I talk about how I'd revive the show if I had the chance. I wouldn't change too much about the main game, except of course increasing the prize money. 2 contestants would compete as before, but the dollar amounts would now be $250 to $1,000 in increments of $250, and $5,000 would be needed to win the game. The Bullseye would still be available in the contract window, but now a contestant would need to answer 5 questions in a row to win the game. But if they got one wrong, their opponents could steal $1,000 with a correct answer, and the game would continue as normal. Both contestants would keep whatever money they won, if anything, while the losing contestant would get a $1,500 consolation prize if they won less than that. Bonus Island is the same as before, with the dollar amounts now being $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000. Getting 3 bullseyes would double the money as before and won a prize package worth anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. If the champion goes 7 spins without hitting the lightning, the pot would be bumped up to $50,000 if it was less than that. If it was more than that, of course, the player won the excess. And if they can get 3 bullseyes in 1 spin, they would win $100,000. 5-time champions, of course, would win a new car, as before, and 10-time champions would retire but would earn a guaranteed spot in a tournament of champions and a bonus of $50,000 in cash. As for host, I'd go with someone like Todd Newton, James Corden, Jason Kelsey, or Mayim Bialik. And the announcer could be either Jim Thornton, Joey Fatone, or Burton Richardson. Anyway, that is my most recent episode of 15-Minute Game Show Reviews. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, smash the like button, and follow me on Space Hay. I'm going to be making some more videos of all kinds this month, including maybe going to try to do another anime game show crossover. I don't know why. But, whatever. I hope you'll keep watching. Have a nice, safe September, everyone. And until next time, I'm Marty Ittram, and I am logging out of the Nerd Nest.